Hi, guys, and welcome to Left on Red with Sierra Clare. It's your host, Sierra. Today, we'll be talking about first dates, and we have a special guest today, Darwin's Osima.
Hey y'all.
Hey, Darwin's. So, you are our first guest on the show. So, just tell me a little bit about yourself. How'd you come to be on the show, and why are you picked first dates to be the topic that you wanted to talk about with me?
Right. So hello everybody. My name is Don Seaman, like you said. I graduated from UCF. That's where I met Sierra, of course. And then I transitioned to grad school where I'm studying like student affairs and like the whole college operating system and industrial psychology. And just a little about me, I have 5 siblings, of course. So I'm a black man in America, trying to make ends meet, all that jazz. And then what I think led us to this topic is I was kind of thinking about, our society in general, and like, part of our student affairs program, we talk a lot about like diversity and equity and what are the implications of our actions and expectations of people. And so when I thought about this, like, idea of paying on a first date, I was like, my question in my head is why? Like, why do we expect that? Like, why is that a thing that became the standard? And as you have the polls and people are like, oh yeah, men should pay if he doesn't pay, I'm not going to talk to him. I just want to inquire, like, what is the reason behind that essentially? So I got me here today.
Well, I'm so happy to have you. And like Doran said, we met at UCF and instantly clicked, even though I thought he didn't like me at first. Very good. We instantly clicked. And Darren's is just always talking about life and philosophy, but we are going to explore more on why is there an expectation that men should pay on the first date in a heterosexual relationship, and why some men feel like they don't. So that would just segue into our first topic. Who should pay for the first date in a heterosexual relationship, the man or the woman? And so I'll start out and say I think the man should pay for the first date, 100%. I don't think it should be like split or if the person who acts should pay unless it was discussed prior. But if you guys are both showing up, there was no discussion on who's going to pay. I think the man should pay. It just shows that you're a gentleman. It shows that you can afford the date, and more importantly, that you like the girl enough that you want to impress her, you want to pay for her. So I think the man should pay for the first date 100%.
And I 100% disagree.
I know you do.
Yeah,
But why? Like, as a man, why do you disagree? Like, why do you feel like you shouldn't be paying for the first date?
I think it's okay for somebody to pay for the first date. I just don't want to pay for the first date if, by virtue of the fact that I'm a man. You see what I'm saying? I don't think, because I think this, it kind of brings the idea of gender roles, like what we expect of people. And if you expect some people, I feel like oftentimes, could be trauma speaking, but they'll let you down. So so to expect somebody to pay, not because of who they are, like what they are, whatever, anything like that, but just because of the fact that they're a man, I think that puts a lot of pressure on the person who wants to like live up to expectations, and also sets a precedent for the relationship. Like when we look at why we have, that whole idea of men paying and providing, like that's way back to hunter and gatherers where men were outside providing and, women were in the home cleaning up and all that stuff, like home caring. And like, we don't need that anymore. Like there's no reason for that, so I just don't see like the reason why it should be down to the men to pay. Like it just doesn't make any logical sense to me.
I get what you mean because, like, you're right. We're not in like caveman times. Like, we don't need the guy to show like, oh, I'm a hunter, I'm a fisher, I can provide, I can do this. But I do think like having those, maybe like those gender roles, or just kind of like more so the sense like you can provide. I think no matter what, like even the more that we push for equality and everything, like I'm for it. I'm for it all. That like women really can do anything and everything without a man. But I think we want to be with somebody that can provide for us because we can provide for our own. So I think like a guy should want to impress a woman and pay and show that he can do that. I feel like you not doing that is just the insecurity within your own self, honestly. I think it's like an insecurity. Like, why wouldn't you want to impress the person? Like, you ask the girl out, you care, in some way. Like, why wouldn't you want to do that? And I feel like guys who don't want to do that or feel like they don't have to impress the girl feel like they're too good.
Right. I mean, but then also I would argue the opposite. I think it's a more insecurity I would think on the girl's part, because I don't see why you have to reduce a man down to his wallet. Let's say you go on
a
this
man
great
down
date.
to his wallet, Dorrance. That's the thing. You're looking at it like it's being reduced down to your wallet, when we're looking at it as
Right.
showing that you care, the appreciation. It's kind of it's all ingrained in that.
Why can't? But what? So okay. So let me give you an example. We go on a date. It's free. Like we go to a park that's free. We, I don't know, watch fireworks. Da da da. Like overall, like you're on this date for like maybe 2 hours. Great date. There was no money involved. Then you go out to dinner. check comes out, the waiter's looking all crazy. Who's paying?
Yeah,
And
who's
then the
paying? The
person's
waiter's
like
looking
two
all
checks.
crazy.
What would you say? Like, how would you feel after that? When they said two checks, how'd you feel? Like, would you want a second
like
date?
once he said 2 checks, like the Scorpio in me is already going crazy. I'm calculating, but I know I want. Like the Scorpio me is like, no, like that's not happening. But I honestly, in my mind, for me, it's done. Like I would be, I'll be very respectful, and I would say, thank you, it was a lovely time, and I probably wouldn't text him back again. To me, it's just kind of like like the 2 checks, like the whole, like the tone and the mannerisms of it. It's like, why, like why can't you pay for it? Why, like if we had
But
such a good time, but Darwin's in your scenario,
should have.
we had such a good time.
Right. So, and we had a good time. So why is the thing that's being the deciding factor? Not the fact you had a good time. Not you removed all of that. Your answer was reduced down to he didn't pay, so no, I'm done. Like that's what I think the inherent issue is.
For me, I would more than likely be done if I still really, really liked him and we went on another date and he did the whole split the check thing again. It's just kind of like, it's just for me, it's just a turn off. It just like, why wouldn't you want to pay? To me, like a real man can pay for you. Like if you can't afford to go on a date, you shouldn't be dating. If you can't afford,
It's not an affording. See, and even you just said a real man. Like what does that even mean? Like because then we start and we don't really need that anymore. Like I think a lot of it is rooted in our culture and different society, how we grew up. And even our own culture. Within my own culture, like my mom, my dad provides. My mom's home; she raised the kids. There's 6 of us, of course. Like it makes sense, a balance of labor. But then the question I have to you is how. So because you expect this of a man, what can a man then expect from you? More point, you have 2 chapters. You can't get this one without this one. Men provided, but you were at home. So if you want men to still provide, what does that mean for you on this page? Like what can a man expect of you? That you're gonna be like, okay, that's fine.
Okay. Because I know this question was coming, Darwin's. I knew it was coming. I feel I may get like a lot of backlash. I feel like there should be, in some sense, some gender roles, and I feel like everybody should have their own independency as well. But if I'm expecting a man to pay, what he should expect from me is like me, just my personality, who I am. He's not always going to pay. We're talking about a first date. I don't know why you're making that face. If you're not watching this video and you're listening to the podcast, Darwin just made a face like he wasn't really buying my personality. So that's
that's cap. That's a lie. That's a lie.
It's not a lie. My thing is, why, like, we're not talking about dating wise. Like at this point in the conversation, we're not saying, okay, that they've been dating for 6 months. It's the first date. Why can't you pay for the first date? Do you feel like it should be split, or it should be whoever asks?
I think it should have been reduced down to him being a man. If you're gonna pay for somebody, pay for who they are, not what they are. So if I have a great time, I'm gonna pay for you whatever else. Like I go out with my friends sometimes, I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna show
you. But if you have a bad time, you're saying you're done. You're not paying.
Right, but I'm not going to say, oh, hey, they didn't pay for me. They did this one thing. I'm not going to remove them. Like, don't expect things of people by virtue of things they can't control. Like, by virtue of me being mad, I shouldn't be expected to pay for everything. And because if I pay for the first date, now it's the second date, now I'm supposed to provide. I got to get a job, take care of everything, all the money. But I want to play a big part of my family. So now does that only leave you? Like, there's a balance with these things. So you can't really have one without the other, I think, in my opinion. And that's based on my experience. Like, I want to have roles in both, and I would want you to have roles in both.
I agree. I definitely feel like there should be a balance. But I feel like you can't judge all of that off of the first date.
Right. So just so everybody pays for themselves.
Wait, say that part again?
Everybody pays for themselves, and the payment's not an issue.
Okay, so that's what you're saying. Everybody pays for themselves. There's no expectation. If it goes good, it goes good. If not, not. You paid, I lost nothing. We're good.
Very good.
Have you ever very good. Okay, but have you ever had a girl you felt like you took on a first date, basically took advantage of you? Like she got a free meal out of you, or you've never been in that scenario?
No, I think when I've gone on dates before, I paid only because I feel like I had to. Like the way they did the whole who's paying, I was like, I'll pay because I guess I'm the guy I had to. But I don't feel that way. But I know people who have. Like I asked my friends about this question. They're like, yeah, I've gone on dates and like it's probably went bad, like it was whatever, and then they felt used, So then men start to feel like, oh, like they say women are gold diggers, and they're not, but that's what it sounds like when because you reduce us down to our wallets. We're not a person if we're not providing. And I think that inherently pays like toxic masculinity and like all these things that's wrong with society when we have gender norms or gender roles.
I definitely understand where you're coming from because it may like, but okay, let's start with your point with women being a gold digger or not. Do you feel like if a girl does not like want to pay for a first date, do you feel like she's a gold digger or does she have high standards?
I wouldn't if she wants me to pay. I wouldn't see that's either one. Like I don't see that as gold digging. I think it's just a system that's set up that we all buy and believe into. Like I don't think the gold digging. I don't think it's like necessarily even high standards. Because I think honestly, expecting men to pay is low standards because if that's the bar. No, men need to do better. They need to
Low
value and
standards?
yeah, to expect a man to pay because that's nothing. To pay for a date means nothing. You see what I'm saying? Like that.
Okay, but if it
I don't think that
means
means anything.
so little, if it means so little,
Right.
why is this such a controversy, like a controversial topic that we keep coming back to? It means so little, and you're saying that it's low standards. But if it's low standards, it means so little. Why is it this big thing, darlings? Why is it that it's like, pulling teeth for guys to pay for a date now versus 50 years ago wasn't like that. 20 years ago,
Well,
even 10 years ago, like 20 years ago was 2001. R&B was popping, all the
right.
love songs. It was in that it
uh,
was in our
mhm,
culture to want to impress a girl.
right.
10 years ago,
Well, yeah.
2011, it was still maybe was it was in that culture and I think now it's totally shifted. But if it's low standards, why is it such a big deal?
I mean, to be honest, I don't think it is. I think most men I've talked to are like, yeah, I'll pay. Like, it's not a big deal. But I'm saying, like, we have to think about the implications of these things. Like, for larger society, like, if when it comes to gender identity expression, like the binary system, all these things affect that, especially with heterosexuality or like, men and women being the norm per se, right? Like these things mean something. So I think that it's not the biggest deal, but I'm saying like, it sets the precedent for your relationship and for what your dynamic is, because now if I go on a date with you, like we're not having a conversation about what the money means. I'm gonna say, oh, I pay for it. So I'm going on a second date, bet. My job is to pay, provide. So now I don't have to do nothing else but provide. I can have no personality, no emotional support, like emotional identity. I just pay and I do my job, and that's just it. And then I'm gonna start to expect from you because I'm paying as a service that you are. What are you not gonna go home? Are you not gonna clean the house? I'm saying, and like I don't want that in a dynamic, but that's what it creates. Like you really can't have one without the other. Like you can't expect something of somebody else
But
and
you
not expect
can't
them to
base
use
this
my whole
all
thing.
off the first date because I get where you're coming from. I don't think one person should pay for everything, but we'll get to that. And one person do nothing because then who wants to be with somebody who's doing nothing? Like we'll get like that goes into like a whole control issue. We'll get to that. But you can't just say, oh, because I paid for the first date, I'm now like, you know, making this girl think that I'm gonna pay for everything. Like we're talking about a first date, not a relationship, not the dating, just the
I think
first
it's
date.
flexible. I think it's a small. It's just it's one of those small ideas that's like, okay, like I now know that one of my roles is going to be to provide. Like it
But
might
then
not be for everybody, but I
it
think
might
that's
not
what
be for
it's
everybody. But
right.
you
So
feel
like I
like
mean,
you have pressure on you to provide already if you have to pay?
oh yes, I mean that's all. I mean we'd have to look at the polls a lot, and I think maybe we ask men like, do you feel like you have to pay? They're probably like, yeah, I have to because it's expected of me. Like and again, like it's a thing where it's an expectation, and not that we need, but because society created a system and we just buy into it. Like we're not trying to change it, and there's just no need for it. Like look, if we go out on for lunch right now, for example, you don't expect me to pay because we're friends, but somehow when it's a relationship, it's dating. There's now men need to pay because we're thinking about that whole idea of men being the provider. You see what I'm saying? Like it's all connected.
Do you expect something if you pay for a first date? Now that you
Personally,
feel like you're in a provider position, do you expect something from the female?
I wouldn't, but I know men who do. Like you see what I'm saying? Like and in that case, that's something that what they expect. But like
What
I
is the
personally,
expectation? What is the expectation then?
I can't
What's
speak
the
for all men.
expectation? Because if now you're saying it's low standards and some guys are expecting something, what are they expecting? I want the audience to know what are the guys expecting from the females if y'all pay for our dates?
I have no idea. I really couldn't tell you. I
Okay,
couldn't
well,
tell you what.
let's let's say it's expecting sex, right? I think that is two things you cannot compare. You can't
You
compare.
cannot.
You can't say
Right.
oh, I paid for your date, so I'm expecting to take you home. If that's what some guys are thinking, because then that goes into prostitution. And here in the state of Florida, that's a second-degree misdemeanor. You know what I mean? Or a felony. I can't remember. It's like product for service. Like it doesn't match up. So I feel like
Right,
guys who are saying, well, if I pay for the date, I'm expecting, a little bit more, maybe to take you back home. That's
right.
that's just unacceptable. It's kind of creepy. It's
It
dirty. It's not
is, but that's the
gentleman-like.
dynamic. But here's the problem: you went on a date and you have spent nothing. You see what I'm saying? Like someone has not paid for your time, and in America, when you pay for something, people expect a service. You see what I'm saying? I'm not saying I agree, but that's the dynamic again you set up. Now it's the thing where it's like I paid for dinner, so what I get out of it? And if a man says that, like it is crazy. Like I'm like, no, it's not the same like equivalency, but like that's how it was in the past. Like they pay for dinner, you go home have sex, and like that was kind of the exchange. It shouldn't be that way, but I'm saying like you can't have one part of that equation, not the other. Like that's gonna fall naturally. Not all men might not expect that these days, but like if they do, you can't look at them crazy. Like, oh, why'd you think that? Like you set the precedent by saying, oh, you're gonna pay, or expect them to pay.
Well, Darwins, you know what time it is. We're gonna take it to the polls.
Okay.
Let's take it to the polls. So we have about 2 or 3 polls I'm gonna read. The first one: is it toxic masculinity to make a man pay for everything, or is it having high standards? This was under the first date poll. 54% it said that it's toxic, and 46% said that it's high standards.
Right.
So Darwin's, I know you're smiling. You're like, very good. This is exactly what I was expecting. Okay.
Exactly.
The other question was, should a man pay for the first date or the person who asked? 51% said the man, and 49% said the person who asked. So I think
Right.
that was a close one.
Mm-hmm.
And the second question was, should a man pay for the entire date? And 49% said yes, and 51% said no. So I'm guessing it's like that scenario that you put. Let's say we go to the park, then we have dinner, and then we go for ice cream. Should he pay for all outings, or should it be split up a little bit?
Right.
So I think but all 3 of those were very close in percentages on what should be happening. But I still do stick to my stance. If I think the man should pay, but I've now gained more of a perspective on how guys feel when you guys
Right.
have to pay. Like are we adding an extra pressure to you? So I've left with a new perspective on how
Okay.
I'll look at dating now on the first date. But let's go over to topic 2. Okay. If the man splits the bill on the first date, is he cheap/broke? Or is he just not that into her? What do you think? Is he cheap or broke, or is he just not that into her?
I find it so funny how like the moment a guy doesn't want to pay, it's like, oh, he broke. Like no, like I mean, we're not
No.
like that's
You know what I put, Darwin? Broke boy vibes. It's broke boy vibes. If you don't want to pay, and this is, following up with our first topic, if you don't want to pay, I feel like it's a bit of both. I think it's cheap or broke, or you're just not that into her. Because when you want to, like I said, I think it all goes back to you want to impress your date. Like the girl will want to impress the guy will want to impress the girl. You want to impress them. And I think in the guy, like you should want to be like the gentleman. You should want to like pay for me if you really like me. And if you don't, then you're definitely broke.
So you want me to pay for your time? Is that not a second degree misdemeanor in the state of Florida?
No. Paying for time and paying for a sexual favor are 2 different things. Okay, those are 2 different things.
There's a thin line there, but okay.
I feel like it's definitely broke boy vibes. You should want to pay. If you like someone, you should want to pay. I actually have a story about this. I went on a date with a guy. Okay. And the date was going. We went to not Top Golf, but it's like a very similar to Top Golf. We went there and we had a lot of fun. It was a good time. We golfed. Anyways, it gets to the end of the night, and at the end is when you pay for like golfing and the food that we got. And so you have to walk up to like the cashier. And so I'm like, man, I really like this guy, and the date went really well. And so the cashier is like, okay, it's like, 63 something something. And the guy goes, okay, split it. Like immediately. And my heart just sank. Okay, it just sank. It just sank because once he said,
Why?
and it was the tone he used, and like he was like, split it. And even the cashier
Yeah.
looked at me, and I was just like, very good. Now, he picked me up and drove me there. So I knew, again, in my Scorpio mind, I have to be strategic. I knew I couldn't call this scene because I have to get home, guys. I have to get home. But from that moment, it's like the date was done. It was over. It was over. Like,
Okay, and I think when it does depend on tone, like tone of how you were saying, because like if somebody's like, "Oh, quick like that," then it sounds like okay, maybe they weren't interested, and that I can understand. And I do feel like, for example, like I said, like if I go out with somebody and have a great time, like no matter who it is, like it could be like one of my best friends or just like some girl I'm going out with, I might pay because of the experience I had, you know. So like that might be an indication of like he's not interested. But again, I think just reducing it down to that thing of saying, "Oh, you know, like." He doesn't pay for all of it, or I think splitting it shouldn't be bad. Like if he pays for none of it, that's a problem. But splitting should not be bad or indicative of him not liking you or not. Because honestly, at the same time too, let's say the date was like $100. That's 50-50 each person. Like I don't
which
think
is
anybody
fair.
within our age
Which
group,
is
you know,
fair.
yeah, it's fair. But age group, like, can we drop in? Let's say you go on 2-3 dates a week. Like that's $100 that the guy's spending on a date. You know, like just going out to have that experience. So that's a lot of money. That's not financially
I
responsible.
think if you want to split a date, the first, second, third, whatever, if you want to split, there should be a combo beforehand. I appreciate the heads up.
Okay, now question: if I have the combo, would you still be interested in the date?
Very good question. No.
Combo doesn't matter.
Like you never know. I may be really, if I really like you and you kind of like, if you worded it really well, you articulated that sentence or paragraph you were going to send to me and it sounded good, if it was deliverable, maybe.
Like, hey, just so you know, I don't want to put pressure on us. I think we split the first date. You're gonna be like, oh, really? Yeah, okay, I'm from
Okay, exactly. That sounds like you have commitment issues. And I literally put this in my notes. I said, not paying shows that you're extremely frugal and you have a commitment issue,
no, I
or a
could be
trust
from
issue.
so I could actually be rich, to be honest, you know. But like commitment issues, I wouldn't say it says that. Like, you know, like I think I would pay for the person's time, but just like again, like I don't think it might mean I'm not into the person. I'm more so like if that was my situation, I'd pay because I'm respecting you, not because I wanted to. So even if I didn't like you, to be honest, I would still pay for it the full day. Like, and I would not because I want that to be a thing that's held against me because I don't want like a broke guy. Like I got the money had an issue, but I was still going to be like, oh my god, I was off. I'll never talk to you again. You see what I'm saying? So I'm saying using that as an indicator is not good because it doesn't show you anything. Like you should look at everything else. Like was he looking at you? Was he staring at you? Was he like? There's so much other factors that can tell you if somebody's interested into you besides money. And we're gonna say it's a low standard because everybody might have some money to pay for. If me swiping my card is enough to say that I was interested into you, then you're again allowing that guy to do the bare minimum. And men sometimes will do the bare minimum because of the fact that like that's all you still got to do. I do one thing, that's it. You know, like we need to start requesting
I
more.
I agree. I agree to an extent, Darwin's. I feel like it should be a mix of multiple things. I feel like it should be a mix of how the guy treats you. Does he open the door for you? How do you even treat the waiter, the waitress, the host? The whole situation. Do you feel comfortable around him? Was there even good conversation? Does he have a personality? All of those things should be taken
Right.
into consideration, not just can you swipe a card? Because
Yeah.
yeah,
But as
anybody could swipe a card. Like, anybody can, especially now. I know like we're in a pandemic, but people are getting money all types of ways. Anybody can swipe a card and say, "Oh, look, like I did this for you," and treat you like complete trash. And that is low standard. I
yeah.
think as a black woman and as a lot of black women now, we have
Mm-hmm.
accepted the bare minimum and we take on more, like we are taking on these guys that have these maybe like like emotional issues and like all these different things, and we're like, you know what, like we're gonna fix you, we're gonna groom you, we're gonna juggle you, our own job, our career, everything, and we let our standards go so low. And so I think now the way how social media is and just how the media is itself, it's pushing more black women to get that high standard, not settle
Yeah.
for the bare minimum. And I think in the media, it's telling us you need to get a guy that has this type of job. He should be
Exactly.
buying you this land. It's like these celebrities, are like, oh yeah, like my guy just bought me some land. Get you a guy to buy you land. It's like, I work at Target. What's happening?
Exactly. Right. That's what I'm saying. Especially for our
I mean,
age demographic.
and by the way, I don't work at Target. This is not Target affiliated, but we know, like, it's like you I think in the media now, especially on Instagram and Twitter, and the Black influencers that our generation and the generation after us is looking up to, is saying you need to have that Birkin bag. You
Right.
should have the guy buy you this Birkin, this land, and it's
Hmm.
putting out an unrealistic expectation that
Yeah,
we want, which is idolizing materialistic things, the money, and not the personality. So
I
I do.
agree. Yeah, and I think it really is like when I first heard like artists like Meg Thee Stallion talk about get or any artist you talk about making money or like get that from the guy. At first I was like, what? But then I accepted and I agreed because like men oftentimes don't do enough because I don't think we're really taught to because like most times we're not expected to do anything at all. Like we're not raised. I'm lucky enough I was raised by three sisters. My mom, like they're all very strong, independent women. So my bar when it comes to women is like very high. Like and what I expect, but also like I want to hold myself as a high standard. Like, like when I talk about who I want to marry one day, I want a partner. Like, I want us, you working, I'm working, like we're collaborating, like somebody we're both like kind of doing different things. But I can see why a woman might get tired because of the fact that like men oftentimes don't provide enough. But I think that the reality is that women sometimes just like don't accept it. They expect the bare minimum. When you do the thing about like money, saying if he gives me money, that's all I need. Then once I can get a job paying six figures and give you money, and I'll give you no emotional support, no intimacy. I'll have depression, anxiety, expect you to fix me. Hold on for me, baby, mother, and like all that stuff. Like that happens a lot. That's why I say we need to like raise the bar and to stop expecting things of people by virtue of their gender. You see, like that should not be the line. Like you're a man paid, that's it. It should be you're a man, I don't care. You need to be emotionally stable. Seek therapy if you can, if it's applicable for you. Like deal with your trauma.
Definitely seek therapy
Please,
immediately.
like it's accessible because it can be expensive, but like there's some work to be done. I think for our kids, especially when you talk about the Black community, like there's work that needs to be done on both sides of the realm. Like we're both in systems, of like white supremacy, whatever else, like that tell us that we need to be more than we can be, but we're not doing the work to be more. Like we shouldn't just request Birkin bags, or I should just request a girl with a bad body and all natural, like all that dumb stuff that people say nowadays in media. But social media, that's a whole separate ball
Yeah,
game in
social
of
media
itself.
is a whole separate one, and I'm definitely an episode is coming up about that. But I think, um, looking now that I'm thinking about it more, I feel like social media plays a big influence, and we don't even know it
Mm-hmm.
sometimes. But I definitely feel like it plays an influence on how we look at dating now. Should women have their standards raised? Absolutely, it should be high. Like where, like you don't need to take on all this emotional baggage from somebody else that does nothing but emotionally drain you. But we are
Right.
idolizing materialistic things that are just unrealistic in the life that we live, and we're saying we need to live like a celebrity. We need to live like we're
Right.
getting all these things. So,
Yeah.
Darwins, I think we might agree. I think we might agree. But let's take it to the IG polls, Darwins. 71%
Mhm.
of people said that the guy is just not that into her, and 29% said he's just cheap or broke. 79, that's a big jump.
That is.
So he's
And
just not that
maybe,
into her. They're saying that IG said they're not that into her. The
yeah, I
guy's not
mean, and I guess it depends on who you ask and how they kind of present it. But like I said, like I'll go on a date, totally not be into a girl, pay for everything, and not bad at eye, and I go home like I'm never talking to her again. You see what I'm saying? So like,
exactly.
so that should be the indicator. Like I said, like we should be looking for other flag, like look for red flags. Don't get me wrong, but like we have to work on much more looking at the process and not just the product.
Ooh, I like that. The process, but not the product. All right. Well, moving into our last question for tonight.
Mhm.
Should a guy be more obsessed with the girl than she is with him? And I'll
I
give
believe.
my opinion first, and then
Go
we'll
ahead.
go into Darwin's because we have talked about this before when I post this on IG. And I say yes, absolutely 100%. And I'm going to explain why. I feel like the guy should always like the girl between 5 and 10% more than she likes him. When
Okay.
when there's this thing called the flip, and the flip essentially is when it goes from the guy chasing the girl or
Mhm.
liking her more to now the girl is chasing the guy and liking him more. And during the flip, I think we've all experienced this. When the girl likes the guy more, She may text him more, she may call him more, may want to hang out more, and he may start to feel like she's clingy. He's not, now he starts to realize, oh, maybe I don't really like her that much. And then he starts to fall back little by little and then eventually ghost her. I
Okay.
feel like when the guy likes the girl more, he, mind you, 5 to 10%, not like nothing crazy like 15, but like 5 to 10%. When a guy likes the girl more, he goes out of the way. The guy naturally, I feel like, likes the chase. He wants to keep impressing the girl. He wants to keep her on her toes, and she likes him too, and they kind of just mesh together. But I feel like when the flip happens, the relationship is doomed, because now the guy may feel like, I don't really like her that much. She's a little bit too clingy. I don't want her chasing me. She looks obsessive. I feel like the guy should always be a little bit more obsessed with the girl than the girl is with the guy. And that's my explanation.
And I can understand that, and that makes sense to me, because I've encountered that myself. But I think what it comes down to is two things: rejection and validation. The reason that it comes down to people being so upset, or like especially when it comes to women like wanting that extra 5 or 10%, because they don't like the idea of rejection. Like they're over here constantly chasing after somebody interested in them, but it switches over to validation, because I think what people want, what both people want, is validation, and that is expressed in multiple forms. Like are you familiar with like love languages, like words of affirmation, physical touch, all that stuff? People want to be validated for their experience, their emotions, And so the reason I don't like this idea of like being more obsessed is because it puts it gives the power to the man again to like, and I know women like might think that, oh, that's controlling him, or like I have control because he wants to be more. But again, it lets him, you're deciding your value, your relationship based on what he wants. And it shouldn't be that way. I don't think it should be more than the other. I think it should be equal. Like you both should be constantly validating each other.
But in no world will it ever be equal. In a perfect, ideal, utopian world, it would be 50-50. But I want you to ask your parents, Darwin's, or just, I want you to reflect. Do you think your dad likes your mom more than she likes him?
But that's olden ways. Like
It's
those are
not
old
olden ways. I think, okay, I think my stepdad likes my mom way more than she likes him. I know the love is the same, the care is the same, but I think he likes her that 5 to 10% more than she likes him. And I say that because, and it's not about like giving all the control to a guy, but once this flip happens, the guy just falls back. He falls away. The relationship kind of stays on its toes when you guys love each other the same, you care for each other the same,
right.
but the guy has that deep. He has a he. How can I put this? He just has that extra percent more that keeps it going.
I think it's not a matter of fact of being obsessed. I think it's just more so about like showing that validation and showing somebody that you care about them. Like because again, like don't get me wrong, like whoever I'm being with, like I will be obsessed with them. Like I will like completely love them, and I will show validation. Validation is big to me, especially words. Everybody knows I love my cards. I love writing a good card, a good message. I will give that, but I 100% want it back. And in the moment, I feel like I'm not getting back the same
Exactly.
extent. The energy's coming back. I'm not doing it. Interest.
So you're saying that, so your fear is not really of liking her more. It's if I'm giving the, like, you're saying like if you're giving like 55% and she's only giving 50, that's a problem.
Yeah, because I feel like I'm putting in most of the work. Like
I don't think you. Okay, this is the thing. I don't think the extra 5 to 10% is something that is like, we're not on the equal playing field. It's just a little bit more gas in the tank than the guy that will push that pushes it to make it work. It's like the extra, it's like the extraness in the back. It's not like, what's like what we're doing right now.
I mean, but I think it would really come down to, I think, like, not just like that whole validation piece as well. I think I just lost my train of thought. Oh my gosh. I think it comes down to like, when you're having that conversation, whether it's like liking who or liking who more, like you need to figure out like what do you really need and like what does it actually mean for you, like I said, for me, like that 5 or 10%, like it's not the hugest difference, but I would never want to be invested in somebody who's not as invested in me. You see what I'm saying? And I think again too, the reason why this even comes up in the first place is because of the fact that a lot of men struggle to express themselves emotionally. So because they can't express it and people come on too strong, or like, I mean, come on too strong is his own thing. Like, like I think some women might be saying this might be like they come out too strong. That's the thing by itself. Like it's not men and women that just don't come out too strong. But once you're dating, like you both should be constantly showing love and affection to each other in multiple forms. It cannot just be like hey, and then what does it look like for you? So when you say an extra 5% like we want to buy you flowers every week or like it depends how I show love. Like I think the better conversation is how do we give and receive love and how can I do that for you? Because like something I talk to a lot of people in my life about is like, like I'm a words person. So you can buy me a gift, you can spend quality time, you can give me a good hug. It doesn't mean nothing if you're not telling me explicitly how you feel about me, because I'm not sure. Where my friends are like, I can send them all the words I want, but if I'm not there, they don't feel it. You see what I'm saying? So like it's about how you give and receive love. I think it's a better conversation versus an obsession or like who should be doing more. Because in any relationship, it should be equal, it should be partnership. Nobody should be giving more of themselves to the other person. Like who'd want that?
Okay, so what you're saying is we need to scratch away of who should like each other more. It's how do you receive love? What's your love language? What do you want to be loved? How do you receive that love and match it and respect what they're saying and give it to them on an equal playing field?
Yeah, and it's really about understanding like how you receive it. Like again, my love language is words, but like if yours is quality time, I need to stop telling you that. Hey Sierra, I love you, friend. I appreciate you. I
Yeah,
need to
and
be like,
spend more time with me.
yeah, exactly. Like, it's not just about how you receive love, but also how the person needs to receive it themselves. And I think that's a conversation. But what I'm saying to you is I think that we have not evolved yet to have these levels of emotional conversation. And that's where we have this whole obsession or the flip. Because once we have the
But do you
conversation,
believe in the flip? Do you believe that the flip is real?
I don't think it's a flip. I think that some people apply too much pressure sometimes. I think sometimes like, we'll go on a date and like, sometimes I just don't know how to do it. Like if a girl's really into me, I would generally be confused. I'm like, I don't know why she's into me. If you're not telling me why you are, I think it might just be something else. Who knows? Like, and I get stressed out. Like, and that's just me personally, but like, so it
So
could
do
be a
you
thing,
think
like,
it's
but I don't
real,
know.
Darwin? You're explaining the flip. You're
Do I
explaining
think
that
it's real?
the flip happens.
I think listen, if you're doing too much, you're doing too much. But like, then don't do too much. Like, it's too much. Like by definition, one wants that. Like I don't know how to explain or articulate in a way that like it makes us
I
like.
agree with you that I still think the guy should be a little bit more obsessed with the girl, but I do agree on the love language. Okay, we focus a lot, and I feel like in relationships, when you go from being single to into a relationship, you
Mhm.
don't take the time to ask that person, how do you receive love? If I'm a
Right.
gift giver and you're not, you are, you need the words.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna get Darwin's this great gift. I'm gonna get him, I know he likes hats. I'm gonna buy him hats. I know he likes keychains, I'm buy keychains. And you're just saying, okay, thanks, thanks, thanks. That can cause a drift in the relationship. And they may feel like their tank is empty because even though like I feel like our tank is full because I'm doing what I like to do for you,
Yeah,
but not what you want from me, which is
exactly.
important. So I
Yeah,
think
and how I equated it to my friend, I was like, it almost be if you come to the store and you're like, hey, I have $1,000,000 American, and I'm like, oh my god, that's great, but all I want is a single peso. Like
yeah.
it's not exchanging properly. Like it doesn't matter
Exactly.
if you're doing too much. Like it's about what the person needs. I think that's a better conversation versus that
It's
whole
about
obsession.
what the person
Like,
needs.
like I said, like a lot of people, a lot of men, I think in relationships too, they get unhappy or dissatisfied. Like I don't think men by nature are just cheaters or they just we're not understood because one, we lack the ability to talk about our emotions. That's on men. We need to do better across the board. See a therapist, learn how to talk about your feelings. Like that day and age of I'm gonna be rough and hard, get rid of it. That's weak. Like do better. But like at the same time, we need to also have conversations about like listening when they are open up and saying, okay, now I understand this experience, what this means for you. Like it takes two to tango. Like it should be a partnership, not a mentorship, not a parentalship. You're not there to be their parent, mom, dad. You're not there to be their therapist as a woman, but also
Correct.
like so stand that ground. But at the same time, things takes time. And when I say the whole like product versus the process, like social media celebrates, I've been with him 3 years through thick and thin. And so all we're seeing is that end product of like we're seeing the end product after all the fighting and like after all the learning and growing. But they're a part of the relationship is growing and learning to understand each other. We're different people. We're not going to have the same experiences. We don't come from the same cloth. So like I have to learn how to understand you, then to learn how to love you. And once I love you at the end of that conversation, it's like, oh, okay, like I love her in spite of all the weakness. I love her in spite of Darren's, I don't know, or in spite of Sierra's. And I think that's how you read a better, healthy relationship versus like, oh, you need to like me better because I'm the woman. Again, don't reduce down to don't do things because of what people are. Do it because of who they are. And I think that's like the idea.
Oh, I like that. Don't do it. Wait, say the last part again.
Do it because of what they are. Do it because of
Because of
who
who
they
they are. Very good, Darwins.
are. I'm
Okay,
sure.
so for the audience that's listening, Darwins, are you single in a relationship? I'm pretty sure people want to know after hearing your speech.
Oh, this is checkmate. Pew pew pew. Deflection.
Yeah. Okay, so Darwin's not emotionally available yet. Very good, but he speaks. But he knows a lot about relationships. So very good, Darwin. Well, let's take it to the polls.
Okay.
Okay, because I think this may shock you. 58% said that the guy should be more obsessed, and 42% said no. 58% said the guy should be more obsessed. And I actually looked through it, and there was a decent amount of guys who were in the 50% eight pool. So they
Mm.
think they should be more obsessed with their girl.
And maybe, and like I said, I'm talking about my own experience. Like maybe for guys, like they want that, like, but I think it comes down to a power thing. Like they want to, like, I gotta like her more. Maybe I'm guessing here, but like I feel like a lot of women feel like they have to because, like, again, we're put in positions where like we're always expected to know more, and like that's just a lot of pressure, I think. And men crack under it. That's something a lot of men get evasive and they sort of disappear because we just don't know what to do. Like it feels like sometimes, like, at least for me, I think sometimes women request so much and I just don't know sometimes. They're not communicating to me what they expect. And then instead of like answering, I know for me, my toxic trait is I like to flee and disappear and get quiet. So instead of talking about it, I'm gonna run away. I'm like, okay, never mind, bye. Like, and so it's like, again, it's about having those more adult conversations, like, hey, like, this is how I need to be loved, or this is why I'm walking. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. Like, this is what I need. Like, if you could like validate me and saying, hey, I love you, like, or like, hey, like, or even little things like, oh, snap, like, like, this is my girl. This is what we talk about. This is cool, So I don't know. I think it would be more expansive. But I mean, if men feel that way, then that's you, bro. Do you?
But like I said, it goes into a deeper conversation because obviously, like, there was girls in there too, but there were more guys in the 50% eight, in the 58% pool than the 42% pool. So it goes down to a deeper and much bigger conversation than just this topic on first dates here. It's really
Right.
getting down to like nitpicking out of those toxic traits, and learning how to like love your partner.
Yeah,
So,
I'm happy with that.
well, thank you so much, Darwin, for coming on. This is the first episode. You are the first guest. You did phenomenal. You're great, as always. And I would love to have you back. I would love to have you back.
Anytime.
So yeah, anytime, anytime. Well, thank you so much. Next week we'll be talking about navigating interracial relationships. Is it a fetish or a preference? So I will see you guys next time on Left on Red with Sierra Clare. Bye.
Peace.